Greetings, family. This is Kyle Dixon, co-founder of Precise Minds Filmworks, educator for 20 plus years, cultural enthusiast.
And I'm KAYODE Bentley, president and founder of 4T's Teaching Teens to Think, whose mission is to help inner city youth identify their inherent skill sets in order to complete their education, establish a career, and ultimately start a business, if they choose to. Professor at Fordham University, where I teach students who are pursuing their master's degree in social justice.
And with that said, welcome to the Grand Rising Collective, a podcast whose purpose is to cultivate greatness and excellence within ourselves and our communities. The name itself is from the morning greeting of Grand Rising, which we interpret as starting off the day with a greatness mindset so that we are able to rise to the occasion of whatever obstacles and challenges we may face.
And that's why we focus on engagement, relevant information, and empowerment for people in our communities who want to be and do better in their daily lives.
Welcome to the Grand Rising Collective.
I deal with the demographic of inner city youth, but also the community of inner cities, which realistically and honestly don't have $10,000, if that, to put in the market. So my question is, do you target that demographic, or are you targeting a demographic that has $10,000 to $20,000 to invest? Because if not, my question is, what advice, solid advice, realistic advice can you give to those in that demographic who, man, just $10, $20 that they have in their pocket, they're trying to hold on to. But being honest too, we do not, as a culture, understand about financial management, right? So we spend billions of dollars on our discretionary income on nonsense, $250 sneakers, Yeezys and stuff, when we could put that money towards investment. But why would I feel comfortable in doing that where that's an immediate return on the money that I'm putting out, as opposed to investing in a stock market that has so much volatility that I might not get anything back, I have no guarantee of getting anything back, and that to some degree I realize is risk. It's the risk anyway, because the multi-million-dollar people already have the inside track on what to invest in anyway.
Well, so that's a common misconception. You know, I think that no one has the market on good advice, right? So I think that people try to overcomplicate things. Like, you could just look at the companies that you know and see. Like, if you just invest money in Amazon or Apple or, you know, Microsoft, you'll make good money. I mean, companies like Disney, Nike, Pepsi, you know, they're killing it. So you don't have to, you know, have some kind of, you know, crystal ball or something like that. But the first part of your question, I would say, I think it really comes down to two things: budgeting and saving. I think that before you can even realistically think about investing, you need to make sure that you have a realistic budget that you can stick to, and because it's not about how much you make, it's about how much can you save, right? And then
how much can you keep, right?
Yeah, exactly. How much can you save? How much can you keep? And then what's the priority, right? So if the priority for you is, you know, I want to make sure that I build up enough money to purchase a home, or to create generational wealth, or to do all these things, then you're going to prioritize that over buying the new sneakers or going out to eat. And so you might, you know, say, man, whatever discretionary income I do have, I'm going to invest that, you know. But first, I need to make sure that I have a nest egg savings of anywhere from 3 to 6 months, or whatever my monthly budget is. So that way I don't have to dip into my investments when a life event occurs, right? Because I'm thinking about right now, people who aren't, you know, people who are people who are possibly facing, you know, going without work, you know, because of all these, you know, closures and stuff like that. Right, they're going to have to use what money they have. If you know, your job is dependent on the restaurant industry, or, you know, some type of service industry that's been shut down, there's no guarantee that you're going to get money. So you need to have that savings. And the last thing you want to do is have your money in an investment. Like right now would be a horrible time if you needed to pull out money from your stocks in order to live, because the market has been down last week. It was down like 17%. So now you would be taking a huge hit if you just had to pull money out because you need to feed yourself or pay your rent. But if you could wait until it goes back up, then, you know, you would be better off doing that. So my point is, you know, you need to have a savings nest egg. One of the things that the average person could do, and that I do work with clients on this, is what's called dollar cost averaging.
Okay.
So you can take $50, $100 a month and put it into a structured portfolio, as long as it's consistent, right? And then you can build up your account that way. So you don't need to have thousands and thousands of dollars in cash just sitting there waiting to invest. You could do $50 to $100 a month and just add your portfolio that way, almost like someone might do for their 401k at their job. You can open up a brokerage account and do it that way and just contribute money in, have a properly allocated portfolio of various mutual funds or stocks, and then just invest every month in that way. And that's a really good way to invest. So that way you can kind of take advantage of the dips in the market when it goes like this week. You know, you could take advantage, buy things at a 15, 20% discount versus putting all your money in at one time.
Thank you. See, that's a realistic approach, because we do take, you know, we spend $20, $50 easily with no problem, like you mentioned, and that's
absolutely.
The challenge is, though, a lot of those in the community don't have access to financial advisors or financial advisors who would offer that information and let them know that they can put their money in this sort of account, charges a fee that they can't afford, you know, whatever that fee may be. And that's, I think, what contributes to the apprehension of actually doing that. The other thing is, for the inner city community and for youth in the inner city, they don't have any courses on financial management. They don't realize the importance of prioritizing finances. That's totally lost on them. So you have those two big challenges and barriers that hinder that process.
And that's by design, you know, and that's because the African Americans are the largest consumers in, I would say, in the world. You know, I think that we have an integral part in keeping the American economy going. Because if you look at other communities, even within this country, the United States has the strongest economy in the world, right? We, African Americans spend the most on average, you know, as far as what they take in versus what they spend, I would say, versus any other ethnicity. You know, we don't spend money with African American owned businesses, and we don't save money. If you look at the wealth gap, it's staggering, and it's really a crisis. It's like a pandemic, like coronavirus, but it's only affecting us. You know, it's like the average African American family has $11,000 in savings versus other communities, you know, 10 times that, and it's trending towards zero in the next 25, 30 years. So we really have to do a better job of not being consumers, right? We don't have to go out and buy, you know, try to cover up our insecurities or whatever, you know, with
20 rolls of toilet paper, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, you know, or buying 500 pairs of jeans, you know, buying truly, you know, stop being slaves to these brands that won't hire you, right? Because I guaranteed if you tried to go to Gucci and say, oh, I want a job, you're going to get kicked out. If you try to go to Balenciaga or any of these other big fashion designers or any of these other companies, you know, we need to start, you know, holding these companies accountable and only doing with businesses that want to do business with us.
Right.
You know, Nike should have youth academies all over as much money as Black folks put into Nike, right?
Right.
You know, who do you think's out here buying all these $300 or $400 shoes? It's people in our community.
Yeah.
So we have to change that. It's something like behavioral finance. You know, we have to change that and get away from, you know, hey, maybe instead of the $350 shoes, I bought the $50 shoes and then put $250 into my investment account, you know, and buy some stock in Nike or buy some stock in Apple.
Generate a little extra cash that you can use towards investing is get like a one of those cashback reward credit cards,
Okay.
and put all of your monthly expenses, right? So if you know I'm gonna spend $500 a month on groceries, I'm gonna spend $200 a month on gas, whatever your fixed monthly expenses is, put all of those on that cashback card, pay it off at the end of the month. That's free money right there, right? That could be anywhere from $200-300 a year, you know, depending on how much money you put on there. You know what I'm saying? That's money you could use for an investment. So then, one of the things that, you know, everyone, when it comes to investing in stocks, I always like to tell people to look at ETFs, which means it's an exchange traded fund, and it's
ETF?
ETFs. So
Okay,
they look at
ETF.
different sectors of the economy. So you might have like a tech sector, but then you can also drill down to get more into like cloud computing or fintech or you know, cybersecurity. And so you can have an ETF that only invests in companies that are in that space. So ETFs are a good way to go when you're thinking about investing. It's because you're solving two issues. One is you have a diversified portfolio off the bat versus just trying to pick one stock out of like 65,000. That's tough and it's risky because you're putting all your eggs in one basket. But with an ETF, you can kind of spread out that risk through diversification. And so if there's a particular segment of the economy that you really and you think is good, do a little research on the different types of ETFs that are out there, and then you can buy ETFs, and they're better than mutual funds. They're very similar in structure to a mutual fund, where they might have anywhere from 30 to 50 different stocks in this one ETF, but the fees are a lot cheaper. Mutual funds, they have a management fee associated with it. They have 12B1 fees. They have all these other kind of hidden fees that eat up your performance. It's called an expense ratio. So when you're looking at a mutual fund, look at the expense ratio, and then look at the objective of that mutual fund. Is this a large cap mutual fund that's going to invest in your big stocks, right? On the S&P 500, what is the benchmark? So every mutual fund has a benchmark that they peg their performance to based on the style or the objective of the mutual fund. Basically, the holdings of the fund is pegged to a benchmark. So a lot of times, the manager of the mutual fund, his job is to provide alpha, which is performance greater than the benchmark. So if the benchmark is hitting 20%, then the manager of the fund is going to try to get you 25 or 30%, right? He's trying to get you so that alpha is that the spread basically between what the fund is getting versus what the benchmark is performing. And so a lot of times money managers aren't able to get that alpha. They might actually underperform the market. So now you're paying a premium for something that you could have just gotten if you would have just bought the ETF, which is the benchmark or the index. So that's why I would say look at ETFs. Now there's certain mutual funds that might make sense if you have a great money manager who's able to provide that alpha and he's able to earn his fees. But 9 times out of 10, the ETF will get you where you want to be as far as performance is concerned. And still you can buy into all these great companies, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Intel, you know, all these great companies without having to take on the risk of, and also you could buy ETF for like $50 a share and own all of those companies versus trying to buy Amazon, which is like $1,700 a share. You see, so it's a good way to buy into all these great companies without having to spend as much money, and it's liquid. So I think ETFs is a great way to go for the average investor. But also go to Investopedia. I think that's a great resource. If I say before you put any money in the market, go on Investopedia, take some of the free online courses that they have. And it's just like Wikipedia or Encyclopedia, Investopedia. They have a simulation on there where they actually have a game. It's like a contest where you can put together a portfolio of investments and you pick it, and then you go against people from all over the world, and the person who gets the best return wins real money. So that's a good way to kind of sharpen your skills while you're building up your nest egg to invest. Because like I was saying before you get cut off, you want to make sure that you have, once you go on bank rate and you set up that online savings account, whichever one works best for you, you need to have 3 to 6 months of your budget, whatever it takes for you to keep the lights on, keep you fed, you and your family, keep you going, your burn rate, whatever that is. You need to have 3 to 6 months of those in that online savings account before you start to invest. And I think that'll put you at a much better place where you're not making emotional or irrational decisions because you know that you have this nest egg here, you know, this foundation to go off, and then once you have that, you're a little bit more financially stable. You're making a responsible decision. So that's investing in the stock market. Also, I would recommend everyone look at getting some type of whole life or permanent wealth or permanent life insurance policy, because that's the easiest way to build generational wealth, right? And it's not correlated to the stock market, but it goes up. Like you actually, it's an asset. It has value. You can use it as collateral. You can borrow against it. If you want to invest in real estate, you can take money out of the cash value, use it to finance a real estate deal. Now you have 2 assets instead of 1. Pay yourself back instead of paying back the bank. So there's a lot of benefits to owning a whole life or permanent life insurance policy, because it's the simplest and easiest way to create generational wealth, right? Let's say I have $500,000. I've accumulated $500,000. I want to pass on that $500,000 to my family, but I also want to spend some of this money as well. I can take $300,000, get me a whole life policy for $500,000, use the other 2 to spend on whatever I want to do with it, and when I die, my family now has $500,000. You see that how I just made, and then the cash value on that policy, I could borrow against it if I need be to finance a real estate deal, put my kids through college, do whatever it is I want to do. And so it really gives you that flexibility and options. So that way, you know, we need to really start looking at life insurance as a way to create generational wealth, because that's one. I mean, it's just reality of life, right? We're all going to pass away, you know, so we need to prepare for it. And you know, GoFundMe and fish fries and all that, that's not life insurance. That we shouldn't have to resort to that type of stuff when somebody passes away. You know what I'm saying?
That's
like,
real, man.
And you know, and that's why somebody was joking, but like when you see white folks at a funeral home, they not, oh my God, falling all over, passing out, because grandpa had $500,000, $1 million in life insurance. So now, yeah, I miss him. He's gone, but I just came up, you know. And then also, so that's kind of how we can grow and create wealth. Now we also need to look at transferring the wealth, and that's where having the will and trust is huge, right? Everyone needs to have a will, and everybody needs to have some type of trust, whether it be revocable, irrevocable. You know, sit down with a estate planner, uh, a state attorney, and figure this out, because what's the point of accumulating all this wealth but it's not structured properly, or it's not able to be transferred from one generation to the next? So that's kind of, you know, we have to look at ways to create, grow, and transfer wealth. And that's what I think, you know, from the budgeting and the savings, that's kind of how you can start to create it. Investing in different things like the stock market, life insurance, real estate, that's how you can grow it. And then transferring it from wills and trusts, that's how you can transfer from one generation to the next.